So as you can see from this orthographic projection, or this sort of multi-view, there are many types of lines that go into a drawing. Whether it's a multi-view drawing or an orthographic drawing, there's all kinds of lines on here. And I wanted to talk about each type of line. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh great, a whole bunch of new terms to memorize. But the great thing about engineers is whenever they name something, for the most part, the name usually defines itself. So you don't really have to memorize anything. It's going to be kind of obvious. At the end, you're going to be like, duh. Or whatever you cool kids say these days. So for example, this line right here with the dimension in it, this line right here. A line with a dimension in it is called a dimension line. Now, as you can see, there are multiple dimension lines on this page. Next one we'll talk about is the one that connects the dimension line, that sort of extends out of the shape. We call it the extension line. And if you're not really sure which line I'm talking about, let's see if I can actually write out this name. I'm talking about these lines right here, like this one and this one. These ones are extending out. They extend out to your dimension line. And there's multiple. Next are these dotted lines here. These dotted lines throughout the shape, they represent holes that you can't see, holes behind the view. So if I were to pull up the shape in Autodesk, this is the shape. From the front view, for example, there is a big hole. If I were to turn on hidden edges, you could even see it right here dotted. These lines that are hiding something from view, or that are representing something hidden, I should say. They are representing something hidden. They're called hidden lines. Now you might be noticing a pattern that these terms sort of define themselves. So what about these lines that represent the object? These lines like this one right here, or this one right here, or this one right here, or maybe even this one. Well, the lines that represent the object are, you guessed it, the object line. And I just realized I didn't draw an arrow connecting to my extension line, so I'll go ahead and do that now. So you might say, well, what about this line right over here? What about this one that has these sort of A's? Well, first off, these A's are representing this line cutting this shape in half right here. And it's cutting it into a section AA. Now, if that's kind of confusing to think about, what we'll do is we'll do it in Autodesk. We will make this happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a work plane. So I go down to plane. I want to make a plane in the middle. I want to make it right in the center of the front and the back, just like this line is right here. It's right in the middle of the front and the back. And I'm going to look at this plane, and I'm going to start a sketch on this plane. And I'm not going to start it on there to draw anything. I just want to have a field to work with. So now if I hit F7 on my keyboard, it'll cut out everything in the middle, everything that is in front of my sketch. And so this line here is a plane that is cutting this in half to create this sectional view. And we call that line that is a plane cutting it in half a cutting plane line. And the reason why we have the AA is because if we have several sections, we can do AB and AC. And if we go all the way to AZ, then we can just say, oh, well, BA and BB and so on and so forth. And it just differentiates your different sectional views. Now you might say, what about these diagonal lines here? Well, if you look at Autodesk, you see the diagonal lines represent the part that was cut out. These two sections don't have that, here and here, because there was nothing there to cut. It's almost like if I took a saw and cut right here, what sections would I cut through? And it's these sort of sectional lines here. And that's what we call them. We call them section lines, or the diagonal lines. Now, the only one that really doesn't define itself, like as you can see, all of these sort of define themselves. You don't even have to memorize them. They're pretty obvious. If you saw it on a multiple choice test, you could definitely figure out which one was which, hopefully. But this last line, these sort of diagonal lines here that, as you can see, they point towards circles. These ones right here. Oops. These ones that point towards circles. Here and here. They are called leader lines. And I'll be honest, the way I remember these is just they lead my eyes to the circles, and there's nothing I can really do about that one. That one doesn't really make as much sense as the others. But yeah, that's lines.